Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'll be going into some tasks that I've been slowly processing. Whenever you guys jump in, I'll get back to you. All right. So I got some interesting comments on YouTube, so I'm gonna start with that first. But then after that, I do want to focus on what I have here. Let's get going. Is my screen set up okay? Yeah, I think it is. Oh, I guess I should fix this. Okay. So first, I want to double check some comments. I think this might be my first time getting comments in Korea. This kid was literally awake 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago is literally 4 a.m. Yo, what the? All right, let's see what's going on. 어떤 영상? I think the student is telling me that he or she, can't tell, it's a cat. This cat is telling me that he or she is is like interested in a course. All right. I'll just 혹시 코스가 궁금하신 건가요? I will just send a quick little question and move on with that one, because not entirely sure what the focus of that comment was. All right, so now I do want to focus on what's it called, the course outline. All right, so I began this yesterday, and I'm going to keep focus on this. I'm going to add the word just to my little description on the side here. Okay, which I think makes it slightly more friendly. Sai, what's up, Sai? Just give me a sec. I'm like kind of trying to process something really quickly in my head. Okay, so what's block? Okay, so I'm gonna sort of brainstorm this question here, because I feel like kind of fuzzy and vague on some things. So I will be coming back to this question. But all right, Sai, what's up? Taking the August SAT, you feel kind of prepared. Kind of prepared. Inconsistent. $1,540 and $1,600. That's a big spread, but that's a big spread that's including math and EBRW. And so the first thing I would ask is, first, how bad was the spread on the EBRW? For example, was the math exactly 800 on both, and then actually the spread is 740 and 800? So literally a 60 point spread on just the EBRW. And was that primarily on reading, or was that on reading and writing? I think that would make a big significant difference because there we go. So okay, you're close to exhausting all your practice tests. That is a little sad. It's one of those. It's one of those. It's one of the realities of the world that you don't have unlimited practice tests. Let me. Okay, and on both of those tests, on 2022 May and 2021 May, on both of the tests, you took them fairly close to each other, I'm assuming, and I think on both of those tests, did you finish the reading with a couple minutes left over? Oh, you're actually more inconsistent on the writing. I see. So if you had to choose between one or the other, you'd actually be you'd be more worried about the writing. Okay. That is a little. Give me a second. I just have been deprioritizing writing for so it's kind of been out of mind for a while. Just give me a second to think about this. Inconsistency with writing. What are the reasons for inconsistency with writing? It's definitely not time management. The hard questions on writing. Well, how about this? Sai, first, have you ever taken a proper SET grammar course? And have you kind of learned all of the basic grammar concepts, misplaced modifiers, subject verb agreement, pronoun antecedent problems? What I'm actually, have you taken is less important. More important is if you see a writing problem and you know that you got it wrong, do you know within 15 seconds, oh my God, that was a problem, and this is the name of that problem? Can you basically label 90% of your problems within 15 seconds? Because there are kids who are so. Yeah, I'm actually dealing with you're dealing with the kind of kid that I don't see very often, but there's a very common archetype of kids who just you just are naturally smart because you've just been reading and studying and focus and learning things on your own independently your whole life. So reading is very natural for you, but writing isn't because you kind of miss out on the writing education. Okay, most of them are really silly. Okay. If that's the situation, then here's my suggestion. Just try this once and come back. Leave a comment or come back to the next stream or something like that. But just try this first, okay? I assume that you're finishing your writing with 5 or 10 minutes extra, just left over, okay? So next time, just take an index card, okay? And cover the answers, okay? Cover the answer choices, and sometimes the entire question is all the answer choices. There's no question stem. So cover the answer choices and just fix the sentence first on your own, in your head, and then choose your answer, okay? And just do that for the entire test. That's going to slow you down, obviously, but just see what happens as an experiment. I'm not telling you that this is what you're actually going to do on the real test. That'd be a little silly, taking an index card and covering all the answer choices. I mean, if it works for you, it works. But just try it as an exercise in kind of determining what might be the problem. You might just be sort of overthinking the grammar questions because you've had this sort of ongoing sort of trauma with grammar feeling a little random and feeling like uncontrollable. And you might actually just be sort of like letting the answer choices A, B, C, D just feed too many ideas into your head. And you might benefit a lot from just like simplifying the process. Like, hey, what does the paragraph actually say? Okay, how should I fix it? Is there even an error with the original paragraph? Like, like, is there even an error when I see this underlying part? Like, do I notice an error? Do that, see what happens. I'm pretty sure that's gonna work for you. Like, I have like a 70% chance. I feel like 70% confidence that that's gonna do a big like benefit. Like that you're gonna see a big beneficial like a boost there for you. I cannot speak right now. As you can tell, I'm not very articulate. And Wesley, since you're talking about the same idea here, writing is so easy, but I mean, there is a hidden possibility. Okay, there's a hidden possibility. Speaking to Wesley and Sai right now, there's a hidden possibility that actually you think you know what the writing errors are, but you don't. And there is a sort of deceptive, like, there's a sort of deceptive simplicity around writing that isn't. It's deceptive because 90% of the time you're right about why the writing question is right, why the writing question answer it has to be C instead of B. It's just that writing isn't always as simple and dumb as the books might make it out to be. Like some of the questions are actually a little complex, and for me, my recommendation is just don't always. If you have even like a 5% doubt that some explanation that you're using in your head or hearing or reading is like not quite explanatory for that answer, just come to Discord and ask the question, man. I answer writing questions basically for free because I just don't think I don't think writing's the real problem, man. So if you have specific grammar questions or like questions about like how to sequence ideas, right? Just ask them in the Discord. I'll just like usually a single screenshot is enough for me to understand what the problem is. But just a quick note here: when you come to the Discord, please only share QASs. Any published materials by Princeton, UWorld, anybody who wants you to pay for their materials, okay? Do not post screenshots in the Discord. Just the QAS. Vonify. Vonify, I've been holding off on this thing that's on in front of me right now. So let me just quickly do my own little brainstorm for this question, and then I'll come back to your question. All right. What is blocking me? So looking over here. Okay, yeah, that is a reality right now. I am working on weekdays, and then also working on weekends will make me pretty tired. There's like I only have a limited number of months in Korea, and I need to socialize. I'm going stir crazy, so I need to have that. Then how about for the and then for the October? So I need to have a different name for this. I'm kind of on the nomenclature. and the like sort of like. So in Korean we call it, 시험 대비반 or 개념반, which is for. Yeah, I have these words in Korean, but I'm trying to figure out what to name it in English. So that's like a thing, and I'll get back to the questions after I kind of fill out some of my like I want to like unload some of these like these concerns that are in my head. And obviously the rehash of the August course, 6-week course, will be a little complicated by the new timing since October SAT is during school. Also, I'm not sure on whether there's international with multiple time slots. And this is gonna mess up my scheduling quite a bit for my life, but yeah, that's like a thing. Are those the main things that are blocking me right now? I do feel less tense now that I write all this out. Like what would stop me? Oh, prep for the 실전반. Well, I don't know what to call that right now. For the test review, for the QAS review, for the weekend QAS review class. I need to determine the format, any possible format tweaks and changes, and how much prep that would require. And imagine how that would look in my week. Okay, but I do want to start that. I honestly technically want to start that. I originally wanted to start that this week. Finally, I do need to discuss vacation plans with Soyoung. Okay. So, because any of these courses might collide with my vacation plans. Okay. All right, that's what's blocking me. All right, I just needed to get this off my head, off my mind. Like it's just been sort of like making me all fuzzy on what the hell I'm supposed to do. All right, I'm going back to the chat now. We had Vonify. Do you think I should do the reading passages in the order I choose to? So I do the easier reading passages first, which leaves me a lot of time. Wow, that was a very specific question, and the question because it was so specific, I could actually be very obvious about my answer, which is yes. But there's a cost benefit trade-off, okay, that I want everyone to be aware of. Okay, you can never 100% know that a passage is easier for you. You can only know whether it looks easy to read, right? But that doesn't guarantee that the questions are easy. You might find that the passage was relatively easy to read for you, but the questions are just confusing as hell. So you never know if that's going to happen. And also sometimes a passage seems short and well organized, but once you start reading it, even though it looked easy to read, there's actually a lot of ideas that are packed in there, like super dense. So it might look easy to read, but once you start reading, you're like, it's actually kind of complicated. And at that point, is it even worth like switching to a different passage? I would say never, like basically never, unless we're talking about like you're scoring less than 650, and now we're gonna take sort of unusual measures to just like kind of keep your score high rather than low. But if you're scoring, actually, I would even say that's like less than 600. If you're scoring less than 600, then we might talk about more creative strategies to kind of deal with some of the difficulty there. But the short, yeah, but I think so. Hang on, I'm kind of losing focus. I'm sorry. It's the morning. Um, so it's not actually that easy to predict how long a passage will take you. Okay, that's the first point that I want to make. So given that that's the reality, um, given that that's the reality, uh, the most important thing to keep in mind is you just don't want to waste 2+ minutes on any question if you are not finishing the reading test in like 63 minutes or something with a couple minutes left over. Like everyone should be finishing the reading test, no matter what level you are. If you're hitting 600, if you're hitting 700, if you're hitting 800, no matter what level you are, you should still be finishing the reading test with a couple minutes left over. I would say 60 minutes out of 65. Finish it so that you have 5 minutes left over. But realistically, it depends on you, okay? I actually think everyone should aim to finish in 60 minutes and make it a sort of aggressive approach where, hey, this question is kind of hard. I'm going to move on. Just whatever, I'm going to forget it. Like when I say forget it, I mean circle it, skip and return. I'm going to circle it and forget it. And get comfortable with the idea that, hey, you're not going to hit every hard question. It's fine. You know why? Because whether you spend 4 minutes on a question or 30 seconds on a question, it's still 1 point. It's still 1 point. So that is my overall. I think that's the most important thing. Okay, not the passages themselves, but like question for question for question. Are you getting perfectionistic and are you wasting 2+ minutes on a single question when really you're not even finishing the 52 questions in 65 minutes? You're just rushing by the end. Don't do that. Now, that said, there are some easy guidelines that I can give you. Yeah, I'll start with the 3 passages that are easiest for you. Okay, the reason you should start with the 3 passages that are easiest for you is because it really depends on the student. Not all students are like this, but many students, you have enough neuroticism, okay, in your head where when you have a hard passage first, what happens is even on the easy passages later on, you get mentally like distracted or emotionally distracted. You get psyched out. So you make mistakes that you didn't need to. So start with the easy ones to build up your confidence, to build up your comfort, and then once you get into the rhythm, you feel more confident getting into like the harder passages. So yeah, start with the 3 easiest passages first for you, whatever they are, and then try to be done with all 3 of them. When I say done, at least done with the first pass of all 3 of them by 35 minutes. Actually, I said the word try, but I'm not going to say try makes it sound too weak. You must absolutely finish your first pass of all 3 passages in 35 minutes. 35 minutes is already only leaving you 15 minutes each for the final 2 passages. And that's assuming you don't even come back that you don't even come back and double check your other answers, right? So you must absolutely finish your first 3 passages in 35 minutes. Start with the easy ones. Do your first pass in 35 minutes. Do your first pass of the next 2 in 30 minutes. That's 15 minutes each. And give yourself the opportunity to do a second pass on some of the questions that you circled along the way. Okay. Kind of a longer answer than I was expecting, but anyway, coming back to some of the chats here. Even though I achieve high accuracies on my reading test, I almost never finish a test with 30 seconds to spare. Sai, you too. I think for kids like you're going to be perfectionistic, just because you're used to getting things right on the first time, but everyone has cognitive biases. Everyone has certain weaknesses. We all get tunnel vision. The reason that you are not finishing that test with more than 30 seconds to spare is primarily because 1 or 2 questions sucked up 3 minutes or more. Okay, it's not like you can just optimize your efficiency so that you save 10 seconds per question. That's not the problem. It's almost always 1 or 2 questions, okay, that pushes you into like the 64 point the 64.9 minute territory, and you're just getting squeezed at the end. Okay, that squeeze at the end is going to lead to careless mistakes, all because of that one or two questions, all because of those one or two questions, like in passage 2 and 3 or whatever, and that's not worth it. So learn to just be like, hang on, this is going to take some time. I can give it time after I finish all the easy and medium level questions first, and I'll come back. For now, whether I take 1 minute and 30 seconds and just make a guess between B and D, or I take 4 minutes on this and just choose D, like, the benefit to me is marginal. Okay? It's like, am I going to have a 60% chance that I'm going to get this right with my gut feeling for 1 point? So we're going to prorate that to 0.6 points. Or am I going to get a 80% chance of getting 1 point, which is 0.8 points? Like, what the hell, man? Like, it's not worth the additional 2 minutes. Just move on. You're almost certainly sinking all that time into one or two questions. Going back to Abigail now. Thoughts on the math difficulty? I have zero thoughts. I do not know. All I know is that compared to 2015 when I last took the old SAT, and then the last couple times when I took the new SAT, it seems to be less about just abstract reasoning and more about like different subject areas within math. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it's easier. I have no other thoughts besides that. Wesley says, how many tests should you take before you take the real test? I honestly, you should do whatever. Like, the broad answer is do whatever makes you confident going in. Okay? So literally, if that means, hey, you took one real test in March, you took 2 practice tests in between, and that's good enough to make you feel confident, then go in. That's it. How many tests should you take before you take the real SAT? If, like, there is a point at which you're just taking tests and tests and tests and tests, and you're actually losing confidence because you're not learning from those tests, then you have a couple options there, right? Like, maybe you need help. Maybe you need to get outside help. And it could be free help. It could be your friends. It could be people in your neighborhood or your parents or whatever. It could be paid help. It could be courses. It could be online courses. It could be courses in your neighborhood. It could be like tutors or whatever. But maybe you could get help. Or maybe you could just chill out. Just relax. Whatever increases your confidence, just do it. Okay? If it increases your confidence in the moment, do it. Okay? Don't think about it so abstractly, like, oh, if I do this, then it might help me in the future. Forget that. Just increase your confidence moment to moment and just do that. And then keep increasing your confidence. Never let it drop. So let that be the general guiding principle. So I don't think there's a quick answer for this, because some kids are over prepped and they're burnt out and they're doubting themselves and they're not learning, and I don't want to recommend that they take more practice tests. I'm not going to say 12 practice tests. That doesn't make any sense, right? Conversely, so there's some kids who have no idea what their ability levels are. They don't even know what their weaknesses are. They're just assuming that it's all going to go okay, and maybe it will. I don't know. I can't tell them to take 12 practice tests. It's like there's no number. There's no magic number for this. Yeah, Sai, I've just read your question about books that go over strategy, and I don't think I haven't. I'm going to put this is going to be YouTube content in the future. I'm going to read other people's strategies at some point, and I'm like 90% sure I'm going to disagree with all of them. Like, I don't think there's going to be like I don't know if anyone's watched the incredibly boring me walking through all of Khan Academy. I went through all of Khan Academy reading and writing, and math actually. I just streamed myself doing it. And on the reading and writing, Khan Academy isn't so specific that I can have specific disagreements about everything. Like, I can't nitpick that much because the Khan Academy isn't that specific about what to do. Like, doesn't tell you like do this and here's a triangle strategy and then annotate these, and it doesn't do that. Okay, it's pretty general. So I can't disagree with that much, but I basically ended up disagreeing with 50%. So so that's Khan Academy, the sort of the vanilla strategy. Not that, but on the other hand, just not to be unfair to Khan Academy, the other 50% I totally and definitely agreed with. So it's just a mixed bag. And also I'm not the god. I'm not like the god of SAT. Maybe there are other ways. Right, there are other ways of training for the SAT that might work for you that are different from my ways, but I'm just the guy espousing my particular way, right? Which is read the freaking passage and remember the freaking passage, and then look at the question stem, and then remember and then come up with your own answer, and then choose it. All right, that's my strategy. So yeah, obviously I'll disagree with other strategies that say things like look at the questions first, and then mark the ones that have line numbers. And I just come on, I think that's all a waste of time, and it makes you more choppy and more insecure. And Sai is just answering this whole thing about how many practice tests should you be taking? I thought Wesley had there we go. Yeah. Wesley had that question about 50-52. Yeah, a lot of practice tests, but I would not only emphasize quantity. A lot of kids, by the way, kids like Psy. I mean, I don't know Psy in particular, but kids like Psy. Kids who kind of get very high reading scores, they tend to be also pretty good at learning from their own mistakes, and that's not a skill that everyone has. Especially for academic subjects, some kids are really good at learning from their mistakes for like piano, and and like golf and soccer, and they can tweak and they can analyze, they can diagnose, they can draw lessons, they can tweak, and they can experiment, and they do all that with their own hobbies or their own other passion projects, but they're really sucky at that with reading and writing. So some kids you're not going to be necessarily good just because you took 100 practice tests, is what I'm trying to say, right? Because like literally, imagine someone who has zero like athletic sense, and just telling that person to throw, to shoot like 1,000 hoops. Like there are sometimes they will never fix their wrist movement. They will never fix their sort of like shooting from the hip, using the entire body. They will never fix some fundamental movements required for shooting a ball, right? Even if you tell them 1,000 times, just practicing 1,000 times. The same thing with the SAT. Just because you went through 100 practice tests, quantity, it's not necessarily going to guarantee that you're going to grow. You need to actually grow. You need to be learning from every single practice test as well. So I would emphasize quality of practice. Okay, Psy and kids like Psy might automatically have very quality practice. Okay, but some of you guys may actually struggle to even learn a single lesson, even though you made 18 mistakes. So you got to learn from your mistakes. Don't just suddenly do a shit ton of practice tests. Yeah, and I'm seeing the thing about raising the score in reading. I definitely think that is the hardest one, because there's just a lot of bad advice for reading, and there's also not a lot of it's not like people haven't all of the things that have like titles in reading. They're basically just question types, question types and passage types. There's a history passage. There's blah blah blah. They don't actually specifically teach like really specific concepts like in math and writing, they teach really specific concepts, really specific patterns. In reading, they don't. So it's just hard to learn when no one's teaching anything specific. Test anxiety. Vaughn, if I test anxiety, I'm actually kind of curious what some of you guys do because there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of diverse ways of managing anxiety, and I think instead of just me trying to summarize what works for a bunch of different people, a bunch of different people just sharing their ideas on what helps with text anxiety would be helpful. So if you have ideas, please share. But there's honestly some physiological things you can manage. There's some physiological ways of managing anxiety, like learning to regulate your breath, or like planting your 2 feet on the ground. Like literally things like that will help. If you're religious, prayer also regulates physiologically and psychologically, stuff like that. Having routines, like little mini routines, having positive phrases to just sort of psych yourself out. Like there's things like that. Like literally just you can do it. There's also hang on, I'm trying to think. Oh, there's also solidifying a step-by-step for every single question. Now, when I say every single question, I mean not like a customizable step-by-step, but like a sort of generic step-by-step, like a repeatable system or a repeatable process that you feel like you're reusing for every single question, right? Like, read the question stem, predict my answer, right? Coming up with like a 1, 2, 3. That sort of kind of reminds you that no matter how hard something feels or overwhelming something feels, that you're still following the same step for every single question, stuff like that, like coming up with step by step for yourself. Those are some ways of managing anxiety that I can think of. There's going to be more that I haven't really covered, but yeah, if you guys have ideas, please share. How do you answer function questions and command of evidence? Any tips? So the more I teach, the less I rely on classifying question types, and the more I rely on, hey, in this question stem, does it point to a specific line number? Either directly because it actually is written there, or indirectly, okay? Because it's not written there, but it's using words that should light up your map of the passage. Like, oh, it is on the top left or bottom left or top right or bottom right? Because of the words that are in the question stem. Or is it genuinely open-ended, which is not that many? You might think so, but it's not that many. Okay. How do you answer them? Learn to sort of scope what part of the passage the question stem is asking about. Don't worry so much about pre-filtering it through, because it's a function question, I have to look up and down. You don't necessarily have to, right? Sometimes the function question is literally about the word itself. Like, there's no generalizable answer, and I think people who say read one line up, read one line down, they're gonna harm you. If you are scoring above 700, they're definitely gonna start harming you because they're gonna limit your brain, not expand your brain. So really, the fundamental question is when you read the question stem, like, how much of the passage does the question stem want you to read, right? And learning to tune that. Because sometimes the question stem is literally asking about line 33, and you're looking at line 77. You're going to get it wrong. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you look up or down. Like, read one line up, read one line down from 77. You're looking in the wrong place in the first place. And when I say the question stem is asking about 33, of course it's not saying line 33. It's using a word like Martone's research, and you have to find Martone's research, but you're actually looking at Williamson's research, right? That's like the problem. So you have to be able to like tune your mapping of the passage so that when you read a question stem, you can identify where in the map the question's asking about. Okay, I think that's the answer I can actually commit to. I cannot commit to an answer like, Oh, you know, for command of evidence questions, look up for for function questions, look one line up, look one line down. I cannot commit to that. It makes no sense to me. Command of evidence in particular, though, there is one thing that I can say. When you are choosing between B and D and you get that one wrong, and they were very close to each other, or B and C usually, right? Because they're usually right next to each other. You get that one wrong because you chose B, but the answer was C, and then you see it in retrospect. Usually the problem is, let's say you chose B, but C was the correct answer. The problem is that B would only defend or explain the first half of the sentence of the previous question, right? Because the previous question, with the question stem and the answer choice, it is a full sentence. And when you're looking at the evidence, lines 34 to 38 or whatever, and you choose that one, you're usually only defending a small part, like in the first half or something of that sentence. So the tip is looking at B and C, like lines 34 to 38 versus 39 to 44, right? When you're looking between those two and you're making that choice, ask yourself, which one of these choices covers more of that whole sentence, okay? If B covers 30% of that sentence, but C covers 80% of that sentence, or if B covers a part of that sentence that seems less emphatic, less emphasized, and C covers the most important part of that sentence, then choose that one, the one that covers more of the sentence and the one that emphasizes the right part of the sentence. Okay, so that's my tip for command of evidence. Earlier QASs are slightly more sketchy in terms of quality, just because they were still kind of tweaking with it. Sai, I'm answering Sai's question from way above, but they're still good. They're still way better than the practice test materials that other people are publishing. They're way better. And even the PSATs. If you have to go into the PSATs, go into the PSATs. The early PSATs in particular have really sketchy questions. So I don't necessarily recommend some of the early PSATs from like 2015 and 16. But yeah, but even they're better than a lot of these other practice questions. Now that said, I am not an authority on I don't know who's out there like UWorld and Marco Learning. I haven't taken their tests yet, so I can't be 100% sure of what I'm saying because I haven't actually directly seen it myself. But generally speaking, just from my experience from teaching the SAT for 5 years, from 2011 to 2016, I don't trust these publishers. They're not incentivized to make better questions. 390 on my writing, but then decreasing. Okay, Bemnet, I'm sorry. I kind of answered this question early in the stream, so I'm going to do a very short answer. Just with writing, are you able to at least label all the questions? Go and at least understand what their fundamental reasons are. Go and learn them, because maybe you got 390. But you don't actually know the principles that are at work, and you just had a good gut feeling. But now you have to learn those things, and that will decrease your score for a while. Second thing is, you might also be overconfident in your understanding of a question, so make sure that you genuinely know the real reason for it 100%. You're not like 90% sure. And if you're only 90% sure, jump into the Discord and ask those questions. And you know what? Try covering the answers. Just try fixing the writing on your own without even looking at the answers. Those are my general tips. All right, I'm seeing a lot of repetitive questions, and I do need to go soon, so I'm going to answer some of the questions that I don't feel like I answered earlier in the stream, just because I want to. I actually need to go work. So it's 6:40 a.m. for me right now. Let me answer some of these. Let me quickly respond to some of these. Elena, you can't. That confidence. Hey, Elena, I'm going to give you 2 keywords. I'm not going to explain it at length, but confidence, evidence. Confidence, evidence. Some people have too much confidence when they have too little evidence. Some people have too little confidence when they have too much evidence. I want to say too much evidence. They have more than enough evidence. Your confidence should directly match up with how much evidence you have for your answer choice. You may never have thought this before, many students, this is the first thing that they kind of like struggle with in my classes, and it's one of the first milestones. It's like, oh, there's always evidence for an answer. Like, always, there's always evidence for an answer. And my confidence level has always been just sort of like my gut feeling, my imagination. But actually, I need to start tying it down to evidence. And that's one of the first things that happens for like 90% of my students. So confidence, evidence. Link them. Word and context questions, that's a little too specific for me right now. I'll move that to Discord. Walkthrough videos impressed by annotations. How am I annotating the triangles? Triangles are transitions. If you look in my description of this video below, okay, down here, if you look at the description, oops, wrong one. If you look at the description below, you can see my sort of FAQs and kind of and just like search the word annotation, you can find it. It looks like this. Okay. So you can find my annotations answers there. Test anxiety. I have to do this. I don't care about anything else. Okay, cool. I am Korean, Wolf. I am Korean. I guess I'm from Las Vegas in the States. But I've been living in Korea for 10 years. So I'm like half American and half Korean now. Do I think reading or writing is harder? I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think. The more, whatever you think is harder. You know what I mean? But I personally think reading is harder to increase. It's harder to coach someone on improving their reading, and it's much easier to coach someone on improving their writing. So from my perspective as a teacher, that's my answer. And do I agree with the notion that every answer can be found from the... Every answer can be found in text, either reworded or demonstrated. Yeah. That wording of reworded or demonstrated, that's like an interesting wording that I've not heard before. But yeah, 100%. Every answer. Oh, you're talking about reading, right? Every answer. You might think that, oh no, this is an inference that I have to make up. No, you're wrong. It's in the text. It's always in the text. So that is I 100% agree with that. However, one qualification there is sometimes, and this is just because teachers and books, they want to make everything seem super obvious. Because that's when you make things look obvious, then it makes you look smarter. So sometimes an answer key or answer explanation will say, yeah, it's in line 33, and then they'll just be done, and they just make you feel dumb for not for being like, wait, is that really the whole answer though? I don't get it, right? But usually when that's the situation, there's other contributing parts of the text that kind of build up to that, like line 33 being the explanation, and the test prep books and the teachers might not really explain the contributing factors because it makes the answer look more complicated, right? So then as a student, when you see line 33, that doesn't really connect, and then you're like, wait, so does that mean you just have to make it up then, this connection? You're making the wrong conclusion. No, you're not supposed to make it up. You're supposed to look into the text and see why line 30 also still makes sense because of the contributing factors around line 33, or sometimes not even around it. Sometimes it comes out at the end of the passage at like line 70 or something. But you need to find some way of building a proper map of the passage that actually makes sense. and so you have to realize that sometimes line 33 is just the tip of the iceberg. And so you do need to look underneath it a little bit to see why line 33 defends answer choice B or whatever, right? You need to be able to see the evidence in its context. All right. Well, that's just me just blasting through as many questions as possible. I gotta go. I actually am like, I'm like 15 minutes late. I need to like eat and I need to leave the house to get to work. So guys, I'll see you in the next stream. Thanks for all the questions. I'm glad to have this many questions. It looks like everyone's all stressed out about the August SAT. You have 3 weeks left-ish, right? Three weeks left. I'll update you guys if I actually have a weekend course. Now, if I do have a weekend course, that's only going to be like 2 QASs that you can review with me. If you are, so that's not going to be a lot of practice, honestly. You know, 2 QASs that you review with Saul, how much of a difference will that make? I can't even promise a huge difference, but it is an option for you if you're interested in that. So if you are interested, jump into the Discord, and we can chat about classes. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next stream. I think I'll be able to stream at the same time again tomorrow. Until then, keep on growing. Peace.